Have you ever noticed how just one glass of wine can turn a charming, charismatic person into an absolute monster? What if I told you this isn't just a mood swing, but a terrifying performance where the final mask is ripped away? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most dangerous and toxic combinations in human psychology, the narcissist and alcohol. You'll learn why a drunk narcissist isn't just someone who's had too much to drink, but an amplified, unfiltered version of their darkest self. Stick with us until the end, and I promise you'll never look at that life-of-the-party person the same way again after they've had a few drinks. What you discover won't just surprise you, it might literally save your sanity. Before we start, let's quickly define our terms. Who exactly is a narcissist? It's more than just someone who's self-obsessed. Narcissistic personality disorder is a complex condition marked by a complete lack of empathy, a grandiose sense of self-importance, and a desperate, insatiable need for admiration and validation. Inside, there's a gaping void which they frantically try to fill using other people. They wear a carefully constructed mask of perfection to conceal their deep, underlying insecurities. Now, add alcohol to this toxic cocktail. Alcohol is a depressant that lowers inhibitions and weakens the brain's control mechanisms. For the average person, this might mean a bit of relaxation and becoming more sociable. But for the narcissist, alcohol is the key that unlocks the cage holding their true nature. It doesn't just relieve stress, it rips the mask right off. The first thing you'll notice is the hypercharm phase. When a narcissist starts drinking, they don't immediately become aggressive. Quite the opposite. Their charisma seems to multiply tenfold. They become the life of the party, the wittiest person in the room, the most engaging conversationalist. Their stories get brighter, their jokes land better, and the compliments they pay you become sweeter. Why does this happen? Alcohol lowers their internal inhibitions, but not the ones that hold back anger. It lowers the barriers that keep their grandiose self contained. They stop bothering with the subtle calculations needed to maintain their image. Instead, they just unleash the concentrated version of that ideal self, the one they've been meticulously rehearsing while sober. In this moment, they are receiving an enormous amount of narcissistic supply. All eyes are on them. Everyone laughs at their jokes. Everyone admires them. For the narcissist, this is an elixir. Imagine an actor taking a curtain call and basking in the standing ovation. That's exactly what the narcissist feels after those first few drinks. They see adoration in the eyes of others, which validates their own grandiosity. This phase is the sneakiest trap. You let your guard down thinking, finally, this is the real them, funny, open and authentic. But in reality, you are not seeing their true self. You are witnessing a more inflated and less controlled version of their false facade. This isn't relaxation. This is the opening act, the prelude to the inevitable chaos that follows. Next comes the dreaded emotional roller coaster phase for those around them. Once the narcissist has soaked up the initial admiration, they get bored. Simple adoration just doesn't cut it anymore. They need drama, they need a reaction, and alcohol provides them with the perfect tool to achieve this. They begin to play your emotions with the virtuosity of an orchestra conductor. One moment, they might be telling you what a wonderful person you are, and the next, they'll drop a sharp, sarcastic comment designed to hit your deepest insecurity. Then, seeing your confusion or hurt, they instantly switch back to charm mode, accusing you of being overly sensitive or insisting that it was just a joke. "Can't you take a joke?" they'll ask, with a disarming smile. These swings from hot to cold, from praise to degradation, create a profound state of cognitive dissonance within you. You lose all sense of what is happening or how you should react. This throws you off balance, leaving you vulnerable and entirely dependent on their mood. The intoxicated narcissist revels in this power. They watch the shift in your face, observing you try to anticipate their next move, and they derive immense pleasure from it. Alcohol erases the boundaries of decency, allowing them to conduct these cruel experiments on your psyche without the slightest hint of remorse. It's as if they are testing how far they can push, how violently they can swing your emotions before you finally break. And every single emotional reaction, whether it's tears, anger, or confusion, is just another dose of narcissistic supply for them. Stage 3 is where the grandiosity ramps up to an utterly ridiculous level. While sober, the narcissist just thinks he's better than everyone else, but when he's drunk, he genuinely feels like a deity. Alcohol switches off his critical thinking entirely, blowing his ego up to universal proportions. He'll start bragging about his accomplishments, both real and totally made up, magnifying them hundreds of times over. He might declare that he is the world's leading expert in his field, that the company would collapse without him, or that he could run the entire country better than the current president. Any attempt to question his claims or offer a counter-argument will be met with immediate, explosive rage. He doesn't just talk about himself, he pontificates like a prophet. His monologues become endless and utterly dogmatic. He might start lecturing everyone nearby, offering unsolicited advice, and criticizing others' lives from the position of his unimpeachable authority. In this state, he genuinely believes in his own exceptionalism. The alcohol creates a powerful illusion of omnipotence in his mind. Imagine someone looking into a funhouse mirror that makes them look huge and powerful, and then accepting that distorted reflection as absolute truth. That is exactly what happens to the narcissist. He completely loses touch with reality. He'll start promising the moon, talking up huge, grandiose plans that he has zero intention of ever carrying out. This drunken grandiosity isn't just harmless boasting, it's a calculated way for him to assert his dominance over everyone present and, crucially, to reinforce the belief that he is the undisputed center of the universe. The next stage is the total annihilation of empathy. Even sober, narcissists are, to put it mildly, severely lacking in empathy. They might fake sympathy if it serves their interests, but they are truly incapable of feeling genuine pain for others. Alcohol burns away even these pathetic scraps of imitation. Under the influence, the narcissist becomes utterly deaf to the feelings of anyone else. Your pain, your tears, your pleas to stop are meaningless noise to him. Worse yet, they might actually annoy him. Why? Because in that moment you are shifting the spotlight away from him and onto yourself. Your whining interferes with his ability to revel in his own magnificence. He might flat out tell you, "Stop ruining my night," or "Don't be such a wet blanket." He will watch your suffering with cold indifference, or perhaps even with sheer contempt. He genuinely couldn't care less that his words or actions are causing you pain. He sees no connection between his behavior and your resulting emotional distress. In his drunken universe, you exist only as an object, one that is either there to provide him pleasure or simply needs to stay out of the way. Any attempt to appeal to his conscience is utterly doomed. You might as well try to explain the theory of relativity to a brick wall. Alcohol shuts down the brain regions responsible for social interaction and emotional understanding, and for the narcissist, these regions were already running on fumes. Ultimately, you are left facing a person who sees you as nothing more than a piece of furniture that has suddenly started making irritating noise. Stage 5 marks the active search for a scapegoat. As the euphoric narcissistic high begins to wear off and reality starts to creep through the alcoholic haze, the narcissist feels intense discomfort. His internal critic, the voice he tried so hard to drown out with alcohol, rears its head. To avoid facing his own inherent inadequacy, the narcissist does what he does best. He projects all his negative feelings onto someone else. He desperately needs a target. That target will most likely be you or whoever happens to be closest. He will start nitpicking every little detail, the way you looked, the tone of your voice, something minor you said. The smallest thing can trigger an explosion. He will accuse you of every imaginable offense, not understanding him, not appreciating him, or intentionally provoking him. "You drove me to this," is the classic line of the drunken narcissist. He is literally searching for an excuse to vent the toxicity that has built up inside. This process is like a volcano searching for the weakest point in the Earth's crust to erupt, and you become that weak point. The narcissist subconsciously selects the safest opponent, someone who is emotionally dependent on him and who won't be able to push back hard. He would never behave this way with his boss or anyone else who poses a genuine threat. He chooses you specifically because he knows you will tolerate it. And here's the kicker. In his distorted, drunken logic, he is utterly sincere. He genuinely believes you are the source of all his problems. Now we transition into the stage of verbal aggression and degradation. Once the scapegoat is identified, the narcissist absolutely unleashes the hounds. Alcohol loosens their tongue, and what follows is a torrential downpour of insults, relentless criticism, and profoundly degrading remarks. They will drag up every past mistake you've ever made, both real and imagined. They will strike at your most vulnerable spots, targeting the insecurities and fears you once carelessly entrusted to them. Their words are precise and utterly venomous, a true snakebite. They employ biting sarcasm and cruel mockery, often mimicking you just to paint you in the most pathetic light. The entire goal of this verbal barrage is not simply to voice discontent, but to utterly destroy your self-worth, to grind you down morally. They need to feel powerful and significant against the backdrop of your humiliation. Every pained expression, every single tear is like a soothing balm to their soul, concrete proof of their absolute power over you. When sober, they might mask this cruelty as constructive criticism or even caring. But when drunk, they drop the pretense entirely. They say exactly what they truly think. All the poison, all the contempt they've been stockpiling for you and the world finally finds its escape route. Imagine lifting a sewer grate. That is the vile stream of consciousness that is dumped onto you. And the most terrifying part? The next day they might dismiss it all, claiming they were just joking or weren't themselves. But those words, those cruel and devastating blows to your soul, will remain with you forever. Stage 7 marks the descent into outright irrational jealousy and full-blown paranoia. Alcohol is a known perception-distorting agent, but when coupled with a narcissist's existing tendency towards suspicion and control, this distortion balloons to monstrous proportions. He begins to see threats and betrayal where absolutely none exist. A casual glance at another person, a simple smile to a waiter, a text message on your phone, in his intoxicated mind, all of these instantly become undeniable proof of your infidelity. He'll launch into aggressive interrogations, demanding to see your phone and accusing you of things you've never done. His logic becomes completely unhinged and paranoid. Any attempt to defend yourself will only pour fuel on the fire. If you deny the accusations, it means you're being deceptive and lying. If you stay silent, it means you have no defense. It's a closed loop and there is no escape. This drunken jealousy isn't fueled by love or the fear of loss. It is fueled by his frantic terror of being humiliated, betrayed, or made a fool of. The very notion that you might prefer someone else is unbearable to his grandiose self-image. Therefore, he opts for a preemptive strike, choosing to accuse and humiliate you first. He constructs a fabricated reality where you are the betrayer and he is the victim. This allows him not only to vent his aggression, but also to garner self-pity, solidifying his role as the suffering martyr. He truly revels in the high drama he has personally created. Next comes the phase of the drunk confession, which is actually a deeply sophisticated form of manipulation. At some point, right after a storm of aggression and jealousy, the narcissist might abruptly switch tactics. He'll start pouring his heart out to you. With tears welling up, he will detail his traumatic childhood, how nobody truly understands him, and how deeply sensitive and lonely he actually is. He will insist that only you can save him, that he would be utterly lost without you. This is an incredibly potent technique calculated specifically to exploit your empathy and pity. You start thinking, aha, this is the real him. Not a monster, just a broken, unhappy person. The alcohol must have lowered his guard, and he's finally showing his vulnerability. But this is just another trap. Yes, there might be a kernel of truth in what he's saying, but it is delivered at the moment most advantageous for him. He uses his perceived vulnerability as a weapon to completely disarm you and force you to forget all the humiliation you just endured. He is shifting responsibility for his emotional state entirely onto you. You are no longer the victim of his aggression, you are now the rescuer upon whom his well-being depends. This drunk confession is not a genuine cry for help, it's a mechanism to re-establish control, binding you even tighter through guilt and obligation. The underlying message is essentially, I behaved horribly because I'm suffering immensely, and the reason I suffer is because you don't love or support me enough. And just like that, you are back in the hot seat, guilty once more. Stage 9 is all about demonstrative self-destruction. If the drunken confession didn't hit the mark or didn't get the reaction he desired, the narcissist will escalate to more radical measures. He starts acting overtly self-destructive, making absolutely sure you are there to witness it. He might drink even more heavily, mix different kinds of liquor, and constantly complain that he's fed up and that life is meaningless. He could start taking serious risks, driving recklessly, provoking fights, or engaging in brazenly foolish behavior. All of this is pure emotional blackmail. It's a silent message directed straight at you. Look what you've driven me to. If something happens to me, that will be entirely on your conscience. He turns his own body and his life into a tool for manipulation. He knows that a normal, empathetic person cannot just stand by and watch someone systematically destroy themselves. You will inevitably try to stop him, to reason with him, to calm him down. And at that exact moment, he gets exactly what he craves, your undivided attention and complete control over the situation. You end up running around catering to him again, completely forgetting about your own feelings and needs. He is back in the center of the universe. This is a cruel game where he appears to be betting his own life and health, but he only does it to cement his power over you. He has no intention of genuinely destroying himself. He is simply playing this dangerous game to drain every last drop of your emotional resources. When the performance wraps up, we enter the stage of the drunken stupor, or simply sleep. The narcissist, having completely drained all the life out of you and the situation, simply powers down. He might fall asleep right where he's sitting, mid-conversation, slumped in an armchair, or even passed out on the floor. For you, this might feel like a moment of profound relief. Finally, silence. The nightmare is finally over. But this is a deceptive lull. While he is sleeping, you are left alone with the wreckage of his emotional hurricane. You are shattered, hollowed out, and humiliated. You replay every one of his cruel words, desperately trying to understand what you did wrong. You might feel a crippling mix of resentment, anger, pity, and even guilt. You may even start cleaning up the physical mess he made, a symbolic attempt to bring order back to your own shattered mind. While he simply sleeps, restoring his energy for the next act, you are left to process the trauma he inflicted. His sleep is not a truce, it is merely a technical intermission in the performance. He's just recharging his batteries. He isn't thinking about you, nor is he feeling remorse. His brain, poisoned by alcohol and overflowing with narcissistic supply, is simply resting, and you remain awake, left to gather the shattered pieces of your self-esteem. This stark contrast between his serene sleep and your mental agony is one of the most cruel and telling aspects of these relationships. The 11th stage is morning amnesia. The next morning, the narcissist wakes up completely unfazed, acting as if nothing happened. When you try, with a sinking feeling, to discuss what happened the night before, you are met with one of three classic reactions. The first, and most common, is outright denial. "What are you talking about? That never happened. You're completely making this up." He will look at you with such genuine bewilderment that you will start questioning your own sanity. This is classic gaslighting in its most brazen and aggressive form. The second reaction is minimization. "Come on, I just had a few drinks and was joking around." You have zero sense of humor. He tries to paint you as hysterical, someone who's making a mountain out of a molehill. He completely dismisses your pain, reducing it to a minor, insignificant incident. The third reaction is the convenient cop-out. I don't remember. They will claim, I was too drunk, I don't recall anything. If I did say something, I certainly didn't mean it. This is an incredibly convenient position. It allows them to completely skirt responsibility while simultaneously offering a non-apology apology. This amnesia, in almost every case, is an outright fabrication. He remembers everything perfectly well, but acknowledging it would mean admitting his flaws and his dark side, and for a narcissist, that is tantamount to annihilation. Therefore, he will deny reality until the very end, forcing you to feel like you are losing your mind. This stage is one of the most devastating, not just because it prevents any resolution of the conflict, but because it fundamentally undermines your trust in your own perception and sense of reality. The next step in this process is the crucial stage of blame shifting. When denial is no longer an option, say, if there are witnesses or undeniable proof, the narcissist quickly pivots to plan B. He might admit that the incident took place, but the fault, he insists, lies entirely with you. Sure, I yelled, but you provoked me. You were nagging me all night. Or, I got drunk because of the stress at work, and you offer zero support here at home. He constructs an elaborate, twisted logical chain where, inevitably, you become the root cause of his atrocious behavior. He paints himself as the victim of circumstances, casting you as the chief villain. He will never, ever, under any circumstances, utter the words, I was wrong. I behaved like an absolute jerk. Please forgive me. Instead, he will maneuver you into apologizing for driving him to that state in the first place. And the most terrifying part? This frequently works. After the emotional storm, you are so completely exhausted that it's simply easier to agree and take the blame just to make the nightmare stop. You start to internalize the narrative. Wait, was I too sharp? Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut. Suddenly, you aren't the victim of the abuse anymore. You've become the complicit partner. The narcissist masterfully reverses the roles, and you are left carrying the weight of guilt for his actions. This is high-level manipulation, a truly masterful performance. Stage 13 is the brief honeymoon phase. Once the blame has been successfully shifted onto you, and you might have even apologized, the narcissist switches their charm back on. They see that you are deflated and confused and realize they need to sweeten the deal just enough to prevent you from leaving. This marks the beginning of the so-called love bombing. They might buy you flowers, give you an expensive gift, or talk about how deeply they love you and how afraid they are of losing you. They will swear that it will never happen again. They will shower you with attention and affection, meticulously crafting the illusion of a perfect relationship. Why do they do this? First, it's to keep you hooked. They realize they pushed too far and are terrified of losing their narcissistic supply. Second, they need to solidify the idea in your mind that the good times outweigh the bad. Your psyche, desperate for stability, latches onto these crumbs of kindness. You start to think, see, they can be good. Maybe yesterday was just a bad day. This short honeymoon phase is not genuine remorse. It is conscious manipulation designed to reset the clock and restart the cycle of abuse. They give you just enough warmth to make you stay, and not an ounce more. It's like feeding an animal just enough to keep it from escaping the cage. Stage 14 involves financial abuse, often completely masked by heavy drinking or alcoholism, and drinking costs money, usually a significant amount. The narcissist, especially when intoxicated, is prone to extremely impulsive and grandiose spending. He might buy rounds for the entire bar, splurge on expensive but utterly useless items, or make huge, sweeping gestures purely to impress. He is spending money solely to feed his ego, demonstrate status, and project false generosity. The critical issue here is that he's almost certainly spending shared funds, or worse, yours alone. The next morning, when you check the bank account and find it drained, he deploys the same familiar tactic. I was drunk. I didn't even know what I was doing. He might even turn the blame onto you, suggesting you should have stopped him. This means he's not only creating massive financial hardship for the family, but he's also completely sidestepping any responsibility for it. Alcohol becomes his perfect built-in justification for grossly irresponsible behavior. On top of this, he actively uses money as a tool of control. For instance, following a drunken fight, he might punish you by completely cutting off your access to funds. Or during the subsequent honeymoon phase, he'll try to buy your forgiveness by showering you with gifts. Either way, alcohol provides him with free rein to engage in financial manipulation, leaving you alone to deal with the disastrous consequences. Stage 15 focuses on the demolition of your social circle. A narcissist who drinks is a complete social wrecking ball. He might insult your friends, humiliate your relatives, or cause a scene in public. He doesn't always do this consciously, but the outcome is always the same. People start avoiding you. Your friends stop inviting you over because they don't want to witness another awkward drama. Your family members look at you with pity and disapproval. Gradually, a vacuum forms around you. You are left isolated, alone with the narcissist. And this is exactly what he achieves, perhaps even subconsciously. The fewer social contacts you have, the less outside support you receive, and the easier you are to control. Alcohol is his loyal ally in this process. Afterward, he might say, "I'm sorry, I was drunk. I didn't mean to upset your friend." But the friend is already hurt, and the relationship is damaged. Systematically, one drunken episode after another, he cuts you off from the outside world. When you are left completely alone, without friends or support, you become entirely dependent on him. He becomes your only window to the world, your only companion, and that is when his power over you becomes absolute. Stage 16 is about memory loss, but it's not his memory that fails, it's yours. The relentless cycle of conflict and reconciliation, the constant gaslighting, the denial of basic reality, all these tactics start causing your own memory to malfunction. You begin to mix up timelines and details. You can no longer pinpoint exactly what he said, when it happened, or how the argument started. Your brain, trying desperately to shield itself from trauma, begins to repress or distort memories. The narcissist actively encourages this. He'll say, "You remember that completely wrong. What actually happened was..." And his version will always frame him in the best possible light. Over time, you stop trusting your own perception and your own recollection of events. You start to rely entirely on his interpretation. This is an incredibly dangerous state because you lose your grounding. You lose your connection to reality itself. It's like living in a dense fog where his voice is the only landmark you have left. Episodes involving alcohol only amplify this chaos. They are inherently confusing and emotionally volatile, making them even harder to recall accurately. He capitalizes on this confusion to rewrite history in his favor, and you, exhausted, disoriented, and no longer able to distinguish truth from fiction, unintentionally become his accomplice. Stage 17 marks the emergence of pathological lying. When intoxicated, the narcissist lies even more effortlessly, often with shocking virtuosity and utter shamelessness, than they do sober. Alcohol strips away the final moral restraints. They invent elaborate fictional histories about their past, their connections, and their supposed achievements. He can lie directly to your face about where he's been and what he's done, even when you know the undeniable truth. His lies often serve no practical purpose. He lies purely for the sake of the performance, to construct an alternative reality in which he is the heroic protagonist. He might recount the same fabricated story to multiple people, completely unconcerned that he might be caught out by contradictions or inconsistencies. If you attempt to expose his deceit, he will either feign complete misunderstanding or instantly turn his rage on you for daring to show distrust. The narcissist's intoxicated lying is far more than mere deception. It is a mechanism for constructing reality. He builds a world where he is comfortable, grand, and utterly flawless, and he demands that you fully inhabit this fabricated universe alongside him. Any attempt to ground him in reality is immediately perceived as a hostile attack. For this reason, attempting to argue with a drunken, lying narcissist is an utterly pointless and emotionally exhausting endeavor. Stage 18 is the victim roleplay. Despite all his inherent aggression and cruelty when intoxicated, the narcissist loves to assume the role of the martyr. He will whine about how unfair life has been to him, how nobody truly values him, and how everyone takes advantage of him. He will tell you how hard his life is, framing himself as an unrecognized or misunderstood genius. He can blame his failures on absolutely anyone, his boss, the government, the bad weather, and of course, you. This victim position is extremely convenient. First, it completely absolves him of all responsibility for his life. He isn't to blame for his issues. The whole world is simply stacked against him. Second, it triggers intense guilt in those around him, generating a strong urge to help. He is a master manipulator of your pity. Listening to his drunken lamentations, you might momentarily forget that this exact poor sufferer was verbally abusing you just half an hour ago. Alcohol helps make this character more convincing, injecting notes of what appears to be genuine despair. He might even cry, but these are classic crocodile tears. They aren't tears of pain, but of profound self-pity and pure anger at a world that refuses to acknowledge his greatness. This entire victim routine is just another mechanism for extracting narcissistic supply, delivered this time in the form of sympathy. Stage 19 involves extremely dangerous and reckless behavior. Alcohol, combined with their narcissistic need for thrills and the urge to demonstrate superiority, creates an explosive cocktail. A drunk narcissist will start engaging in behaviors that jeopardize not only their own life, but the lives of everyone around them. The most common example is driving while intoxicated. He is absolutely convinced that nothing bad will happen to him because he is special and in complete control. Any attempt to stop him will be perceived as a direct insult to his competence. He might provoke fights with people who are demonstrably stronger than him simply to prove his bravery. He might jump into shady financial schemes or bet his last dollar on questionable long shots. This behavior isn't just simple drunken bravado, it's a calculated attempt to secure a dose of adrenaline and admiration. He wants others to look at him and think, "Wow, he's so brave, he takes such incredible risks." He flirts with death just to feel alive and utterly omnipotent, and he couldn't care less about the potential consequences for himself or for you. Your anxiety and fear for his safety might even bring him pleasure, as it serves as further proof of his profound significance in your life. Stage 20 marks the complete breakdown of rules and social norms. Even when sober, the narcissist believes that rules are written for everyone else, never for him. Alcohol, however, completely eradicates his already weak sense of social responsibility. When drunk, his behavior becomes utterly unacceptable, shouting loudly in public, insulting strangers, or even breaking the law. He simply lacks any understanding that his actions might inconvenience others or be inappropriate. He genuinely feels he is the center of the universe and that he can get away with absolutely anything. If anyone attempts to call him out, he explodes in self-righteous fury. "Do you even know who I am?" is his typical response. He sincerely doesn't understand why he should abide by some silly rules established for the general populace. This sense of total entitlement can lead to extremely unpleasant consequences, ranging from administrative fines to serious criminal charges, but even this won't stop him. In his drunken worldview, any trouble arising from his actions is never his fault. It's the fault of those who failed to understand his unique situation, or who were merely nitpicking the small details. He will always find a way to shift the blame and accuse others. Stage 21 is focused on sexual manipulation. The narcissist often uses alcohol as a tool, either to coerce you into intimacy or as an excuse for infidelity. When drunk, he can become incredibly pushy, completely disregarding your clear rejections and lack of desire. He might leverage your sense of duty, emotionally blackmail you, or accuse you of being cold or unresponsive. For him, sex isn't about love or connection. It's purely a means to assert dominance and gain physical gratification. Your consent or desire simply isn't a factor. Conversely, alcohol serves as the perfect built-in excuse for stepping out. I was drunk, I wasn't myself, it meant nothing. These are his standard post-affair lines. He uses intoxication to immediately shed all responsibility for his betrayal. This allows him to enjoy his conquests while simultaneously preserving the relationship with you, simply by blaming the booze. He might even try to provoke jealousy by overtly flirting with others right in front of you. This is purely to soak up extra attention and validate his own desirability. Ultimately, alcohol gives him free rein for every kind of sexual manipulation, turning intimacy into just another battleground for power and control. Stage 22 involves sudden, often jarring bouts of sentimentality. Right in the middle of a drunken haze, sandwiched between fits of rage and self-adoration, the narcissist can suddenly become incredibly sentimental. He might start listening to sad music, reminiscing about the good old days and talking about how great things used to be. He might pull out old photos, eyes tearing up, and launch into detailed stories. At first glance, this might look like genuine emotional depth. But in reality, it's just another form of self-worship. He isn't actually reveling in the memories themselves. He's reveling in his own image within those memories. He is admiring the past version of himself, the young, successful, happy self. This isn't true nostalgia for the past, it's nostalgia for his own grandiose self in the past. This sentimentality can also be directed toward you. He might recall the beginning of your relationship, emphasizing how deeply he loved you back then. The goal of this manipulation is to make you forget his current destructive behavior and focus only on the times when he was good. It's his way of saying, look, I wasn't always like this. I can be different. Just hold on, and maybe things will go back to the way they were. It's just another technique to keep you hooked, playing directly on your positive memories and your hope for change. Stage 23 is the rise of intellectual arrogance. The drunken narcissist doesn't just see himself as the best-looking and most successful person in the room. He's also convinced he's the smartest. He'll jump into arguments on absolutely any topic, from politics to quantum physics, eager to display what he believes is his profound and extensive knowledge. He'll use complex, pedantic phrasing, quote, classical literature, often completely out of context, and condescendingly lecture everyone around him. Any disagreement with his point of view is immediately taken as proof of your ignorance. He isn't interested in dialogue, he's giving a sermon. He doesn't care about your opinion. His sole focus is establishing his intellectual supremacy. He'll interrupt you, ridicule your arguments, and quickly resort to personal attacks. The entire goal of this intellectual performance is to humiliate the conversational partner and elevate himself at their expense. Alcohol fuels his conviction that he is right, even when he's spouting absolute garbage. He is completely incapable of self-criticism and cannot entertain the possibility that he might be mistaken about anything. Arguing with him in this state is like playing chess with a pigeon. He'll knock over all the pieces, crap on the board, and then fly off to tell everyone how he won. Stage 24 is all about manufacturing chaos and drama. The narcissist feeds off intense emotions, and alcohol provides them with an unlimited supply. If the evening is too calm or peaceful, they quickly get bored. They need a shake-up, a jolt of conflict, and they will conjure it up out of thin air. They might provoke a massive argument between two other people, then sit back and observe the developments with sheer delight. They could accidentally reveal someone's deep secret just to sow discord, or make a scandalous, outrageous statement purely for the shock value. They are the director and lead actor in their own theatre of chaos. The more screaming, tears, and uproar surrounding them, the more alive they feel. They thrive in the eye of the storm, a storm they personally conjured, as it grants them a profound sense of control and significance. Alcohol helps them shed any remaining social inhibitions, allowing them to act with maximum destructive force. They are like a child breaking a toy just to see what's inside, except the toys are human lives and relationships. They don't dwell on the consequences. Their only interest is the process itself, the performance where they always play the starring role. Stage 25 is a complete breakdown and distortion of reality. Fueled by alcohol and narcissistic pathology, the world inside the narcissist's head undergoes fantastical transformations. He lives in his own private universe where facts simply don't matter. He will vehemently defend obvious falsehoods because, in his reality, they are the absolute truth. He will remember events only in the way that serves his narrative. For instance, if he hurled an insult at you, his memory will register that incident as "I taught her a valuable lesson." If he gambled away his money, he'll recall it as "I practically hit the jackpot, I just had a bit of bad luck." He crafts a comfortable, customized version of reality and fiercely protects it from any challenge or intrusion. Alcohol acts as the ultimate catalyst, blurring the lines between fiction and reality even further. Trying to reason with him or appeal to facts is utterly pointless. He simply won't hear you. He lives in a looking-glass world, and you will never be able to pull him back to reality. The only thing you can do is refuse to let him drag you into that distorted mirror world with him, maintaining a firm, unwavering belief in your own perception of reality. Stage 26 involves deploying the flying monkeys. This is the psychological term for people a narcissist manipulates and uses to further their agenda, usually by turning them against the intended target. When alcohol is involved, this tactic turns particularly vile. The narcissist starts calling mutual friends or family members, pouring out complaints about you. He will spin a heavily distorted version of events, casting himself as the innocent victim, the pure lamb, and you as the monster. He'll use lines like, "Can you believe it? She just threw another fit for absolutely no reason. I'm so exhausted, I honestly don't know what to do anymore." He delivers this performance with such a pained, suffering demeanor that people who aren't privy to the full truth immediately start to feel sorry for him. Consequently, the very next day, you might get a call from your own mother or best friend saying, "Why are you treating him like that? He loves you, can't you just be a little kinder to him?" In this way, the narcissist not only completely sidesteps accountability, but they also effectively cut off your support system by turning your own social circle against you. You find yourself in total isolation, facing accusations from every direction. Alcohol only aids him in playing the victim more convincingly, lending a sense of shaky drama and false sincerity to his claims. This is a cruel and vicious tactic designed to systematically dismantle not only your relationship with him, but also your vital connections with other loved ones. Stage 27. Physical aggression or the threat of it. It's important to note that not every narcissist resorts to physical violence, but alcohol dramatically raises that risk. Once they've lost control and exhausted all verbal means of dominance, the narcissist may cross the line. This often begins with threatening gestures, slamming a fist on the table, throwing an object against the wall, or lunging at you. His goal is to intimidate you, to show you exactly what he's capable of. He is actively testing your boundaries. If you show fear and retreat, he confirms that this tactic is effective. In some cases, this quickly escalates into outright physical violence. Alcohol removes the last of his inhibitions, allowing the rage boiling inside him to find an outlet through physical force. Afterward, he deploys the familiar arsenal of excuses. "I was drunk. I wasn't in control. You provoked me. It won't happen again." But it will happen again, and each incident is likely to be worse than the last. Any display of physical aggression, even the most minor incident, is a massive red flag that you must never ignore. Alcohol is never an excuse for violence. It merely reveals the true face of a person when they are completely stripped of control. Stage 28 is the cold shower of sobriety, accompanied by a brand new mask. Once the alcohol completely wears off and the narcissist is forced to face the consequences of their behavior, your tears, ruined relationships, financial distress, they might briefly experience a feeling of fear. Note that this isn't genuine remorse, but rather the fear of losing control over the situation and, critically, losing their source of supply. At this exact moment, they are likely to put on the mask of the repentant sinner. They will become extremely meek, walking on eggshells. They might start helping around the house, offering compliments, and acting overly polite and caring. They will demonstrate that they have seen the light and are turning over a new leaf. They might even temporarily stop drinking just to prove how serious their intentions are. This is the most deceptive period of all. You see the person you originally fell in love with, and your hope flares up with renewed intensity. You think, he finally gets it. Things are going to be different now. But this isn't a personality change. It's simply a shift in tactics. He is playing a role designed to lull you into a false sense of security, encouraging you to relax and forgive him. The moment he senses the danger has passed and you are firmly back under his control, everything will revert back to the status quo. Stage 29. The normalization and entrenchment of the cycle. After you've lived through the repeated pattern of binge aggression, remorse, and the honeymoon phase, something terrifying happens in the relationship. Normalization sets in. What initially seemed wild, shocking, and totally unacceptable slowly becomes a predictable part of your daily routine. You already know exactly what to expect from the drunken narcissist. You learn to walk on eggshells to anticipate his moods and to not provoke him. You get used to the insults, the lies, and the constant manipulation. Your baseline for what is acceptable, your standard of normal, drops lower and lower. You stop rejoicing over genuine kindness, and instead you celebrate merely the absence of bad behavior. The quiet lulls between his drinking binges start feeling like true happiness. This cycle essentially becomes a drug. The emotional roller coaster is addictive. You may reach a point where you cannot imagine life without this drama, without these extreme highs and lows. The human psyche adapts even to the most horrific conditions, and just like that, you find yourself trapped in codependency. You might start justifying his actions to others and even to yourself. He's not a bad person, he's just sick. Or, when he's sober, he's completely different. This normalization is the strongest foundation for any toxic relationship, and extracting yourself from it without outside professional help is often incredibly difficult. And finally, we reach the 30th and final stage, the complete destruction of your identity. A long-term relationship with an alcoholic narcissist leaves permanent scars. Slowly, drop by agonizing drop, he poisons your very essence. Your self-esteem plummets to zero. You start believing that you truly are worthless, stupid, and unattractive, internalizing every lie he spewed during his drunken rants. You abandon your hobbies, lose touch with your friends, and give up on your dreams. Your entire existence begins to revolve solely around him, his moods, his demands, and his unending problems. You live in a constant state of anxiety and stress, which inevitably destroys your physical and mental health. You may suffer from crippling depression, frequent panic attacks, or severe psychosomatic illnesses. You lose yourself entirely. You look in the mirror and fail to recognize the vibrant, confident woman you once were. Instead, you see an exhausted, frightened shadow with lifeless eyes. This is the narcissist's ultimate goal, whether he realizes it or not. Since he cannot fill the void within himself, he must completely empty you. Alcohol simply accelerates this process, making it swift and brutal. It acts as a corrosive solvent, helping the narcissist completely dissolve your identity so he can paint his own ugly portrait onto the blank canvas you have become. So, what have we established? Alcohol doesn't fundamentally change the narcissist. It doesn't turn a good person into a bad one. It simply rips away the mask and reveals their true self, a person utterly devoid of empathy, full of contempt and hungry for power. The drunk narcissist is simply a concentrated, unfiltered version of who they already are. Every one of those 30 stages we discussed is not a random slip-up. It's a predictable step in the cycle of emotional abuse that repeats constantly, destroying everything in its path. The most crucial takeaway is this: you cannot fix them, you cannot save them, and you certainly cannot heal them with your love. Alcohol is not the cause of this behavior. It is merely a catalyst. The true root cause lies in their personality disorder. Your primary focus should not be saving them, but saving yourself. Thank you for sticking with this difficult video until the end. If you recognized your own situation in these descriptions, please know that you are not alone, and there is always a way out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and ring that notification bell. And please share in the comments, have you ever dealt with this type of behavior? What do you think is the most dangerous element of combining narcissism and alcohol?